Why Obama Will Win in 2008 and 2012. Chapter 3. From the embargo of 1807 to the panic of 2007. Most historical events from wars to revolutions do not have simple causes. When these events move in extreme directions, it is usually because of a confluence of factors, none of which is by itself large enough to explain these events. 17th-century North America witnessed a titanic struggle between great powers, France and England. Spain played a secondary role. The border between New France and the British Empire ran through present-day New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio and Kentucky. Military skirmishes were common. In 1689, the British and their Iroquois allies launched a major assault, King William's War, 1697, which was followed by Queen Anne's War. In 1754, the French and Indian War, the North American theater of the 7 Years' War, resulted. In resounding triumph for Great Britain, all of Canada was ceded to the British. Treaty of Paris, February 10, 1763. The end of the war caused a severe recession in the commodities-oriented British colonies. In September 1763, Amsterdam financial markets crashed. The Western world went into an economic slump. One result of the Treaty of Paris was the removal of France as a countervailing power to the westward expansion of British colonists. The French check on settler expansion had aided British control of the distant colonies by keeping settlements close to shore and the Royal Navy. With the French gone, the colonists ignored the British Proclamation Boundary Line Treaty, 1763, and moved west, setting the stage for a showdown. The 1760s became a period of dissent and agitation. In 1766, farmers revolted at Hudson River Valley. There were more revolts in North Carolina. In 1765, Parliament passed the Stamp Act, a tax on documents. The colonists then boycotted the taxed items. In 1766, Parliament passed the Declaratory Act, which declared its right to make laws for the colonies and repealed the Stamp Act. In 1767, Parliament passed the Townshend Act. Tensions came to a head on March 5, 1770, when a group of colonists started throwing snowballs at British troops. The British opened fire, killing several civilians. On June 22, 1772, Airbank London collapsed and set off a panic. In January, 1773, there was another panic in Amsterdam. The British colonies became increasingly unmanageable and rebellious. Sentiment was angry. Deflation gripped commodities prices while taxes were raised and the colonies were denied representation in Parliament. On December 16, 1773, the Sons of Liberty disguised themselves as Mohawk Indians and dumped 70,000 pounds of boycotted tea into Boston Bay. The tea belonged to the East India Company. In response, Parliament passed the Coercive Intolerable Act and the Boston Port Act, which closed the port of Boston. The Massachusetts Government Act altered the structure of Massachusetts colonial government. The Justice Act protected British officials from being tried by colonial juries. The Quartering Act provided housing for British troops and permitted them to take private homes. The Quebec Act removed trial by jury. In response, the First Continental Congress met in Philadelphia on September 5, 1774. They responded to Great Britain as one government. This was the first time that the 13 individual colonies acted as one. They submitted a letter of grievances to the king and made an agreement amongst themselves to meet again. On April 19, 1775, British troops were met at Concord by a local militia at Lexington. They began to fight each other. The militia captured Fort Ticonderoga in New York. On May 10, 1775, the Second Continental Congress convened and formed a Continental Army. On June 15, 1775, John Adams nominated George Washington as Commander-in-Chief. The Congress sent a second letter of grievances to the king, the Olive Branch Petition. The king responded by declaring the colonies at war. On June 17, 1775, the British defeated American forces at Breed's Hill. On July 3, 1775, George Washington took control of the army. Finally, almost 100 years to the day after Bacon's rebellion, Congress accepted Thomas Jefferson's Declaration of Independence.
To finish the rest of this chapter, please download the free book at www.hpub.org/Why Obama Will Win in 2012 by Daniel Bruno.